Hello and welcome back. I'm joined today by guest Alex Dune. Today we'll be talking a little bit about our formative years, what Alex is up to now, some botany, some ecology, agriculture, riveting stuff, but really try to stay with it because it's really interesting stuff, and this guy knows a lot about it. Um, so I always have people kind of start with an intro, so take it away. What should we know about you?
I'm Alex. I am a junior English major at the College of Worcester. Um, uh, yeah, we can go from there.
Go from there. Okay, so junior. All right, where is Worcester at? That's in Ohio, but
Worcester is an hour and a half to the east of Findlay. It's by Mansfield. It's an hour south of Cleveland.
mhm.
Um, Smaller than Findlay, uh, uh, but comparable demographics wise. Rural farmland. We're next to um, some of the largest Amish population in Ohio.
All right.
So
Do you like it there?
I love Worcester.
Yeah.
Worcester's great. The college is small. We have about 2,000 students, but it's really a communal atmosphere, so it's really nice.
And then English. How did you end up in English? Is
So,
that what you originally went in for, or
no, I
okay?
started as a biochemistry and molecular biology major. And I did 2 semesters of that, and I could do it, but I wasn't exactly happy. So I went more of the humanities route and stuck with reading and writing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I'm in engineering, but it's bioengineering, so I've had to take a few chemistry, a few biology, so nothing quite as in depth in those fields as that, but I can understand where you're coming from.
The labs were just
Did you
crazy.
take organic chemistry?
No, I
Yeah.
I quit the semester before OChem,
Yeah.
so didn't have to go through that
Yeah.
misery.
I was gonna say just the basic chem labs. They were like 3 or 4 hours. And is that
Yeah.
similar to what you?
Yeah, our labs were 3 hours long, and then we had a full write up, like 5+ pages, due within 24 hours.
Whoa.
So it was a large time commitment that I just wasn't. It just wasn't me.
Yeah. No, I understand that. But then, ironically, yesterday I just interviewed with a biopharmaceutical company.
That's
So
exciting.
I might end up kind of in the labs, or not in the lab setting, but dealing with people in the lab setting. Um, so yeah, it would be interesting.
That I still find science very interesting.
Hmm.
I enjoy science a lot. It just was not what I wanted to do for these 4 years of my life.
Right. No, I understand that. That's always a constant battle. I think every semester I'm like, do I really want to stick with engineering? Do I really
Yeah,
want to do this? But
absolutely.
so English, and then are you enjoying that major?
Yes. I it's a whole lot more low key. We read a lot. We talk about writing. I was in a creative nonfiction writing class this semester, which was a lot of fun. It was like borderline poetry, but also memoir type of stuff.
Hmm.
So just there's a lot of range in the field of English, which is what I appreciate. You
Yeah,
can sort of find your niche.
absolutely. So what do you plan on doing with it?
So at the moment, I'm thinking about possibly graduate school, either to go into potentially the counseling social work route, or I could do pre law, not pre law, law.
Hmm.
Um, but the I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm keeping my options open.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like it keeps narrowing in like it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to make a decision here shortly on like what direction I want my life to go.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing about life is you can always make a different decision later on.
That's
So,
true.
like it's stressful. I'm with you there, but uh, it's not necessarily permanent.
Right. I agree with that. I guess I think we just kind of get in our heads like we feel more tied down to more committed to things than we actually maybe
Yeah,
need to be.
absolutely. Planning, planning stressful.
Yeah.
So
That's why I kind of just try to stick like right here and now. And
yeah, but the world isn't always too happy if you
no.
try to stay in the moment.
No,
Yeah.
everybody always asks about your plans. I'm like, I don't even think about them. I don't even think
Mhm.
like a month ahead. So how am I supposed
Yeah.
to go 5 years ahead? But
Hmm.
yeah, so I know I haven't really talked to you in a while. I think the last time we said was at Cody's. Cody's sitting over here. It was at Cody's grad party. Um, Other than that, I knew you, of course, when we were younger. Like we went through the Moore program and all that
That was a
together.
long time ago.
That was a long time ago. What did? For some reason, that got brought up recently. Like people were asking me what I thought about the Moore program. Do you have any
So,
thoughts?
um, the More program was called a gifted program. It was sort of an alternative track for students. Um, I I'm not sure how helpful it is to segregate students apart. Um, I think it from a structural standpoint, not from like a retrospective looking back. I'm not sure how good it is for student relationships with each other. Um,
That's what to interject. I talked to somebody that wasn't in the Moore program, and I think a lot of them felt kind of like jit by it, or they even, I think somebody mentioned they called it like the smart kid cult at
yeah,
LP, which I mean, I didn't really feel like that because I was in it, but I could see maybe from the outside looking in.
yeah. It was I it was almost more of a title thing. Like we did do a lot of work.
Yeah.
At least my year, I remember uh, I I would call my friend Brett Geisey every night and talk about our homework, and usually get done with working at 11 or 12. And then oftentimes I'd email the teacher, Mrs. Walker, with revisions and stuff.
Mhm.
And every time she would be like, "Wow, you're up late." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Because of you."
Right.
So yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of work, but um, I yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought Mrs. Walker, especially, I thought she was a good teacher, and she had an idea of like if intelligent kids need to be exposed to arts and different projects and stuff like that too. So I think she tried to bring a lot of that in.
Absolutely. I'd say she had an artistic temperament.
Yeah.
But
We were always painting and stuff, and
yeah.
I I remember the one day there was, of course, we had that chess board in there, so we
Mhm.
learned to play chess too, and I think euchre. We played some euchre too. But anyways, there was like a paint, like not an easel, but like just a thing of paint on there. And so I bumped into it and knocked it over. It was on the ground, and like I left. I just dipped out of there. I remember for like weeks later, she kept like grilling everybody in class, like, who spilled all this paint?
I have sort of a similar story. When I was in third grade, we had this competition to make toothpick suspension
Bridges.
bridges.
That was fun.
And I was making one with my group, and I was a little messier than Mrs. Walker would have liked. So we had like cups of glue that we were dipping the ends of toothpicks in to put them on the bridge. And I was making trails of glue from the cup to the bridge, so there was glue all over the table. And Mrs. Walker came over and she was like, "Who did this? Like, this is unacceptable. You have to clean it up now." So I was freaked out because I was kind of terrified of her. Yeah. And so I was like, this is an emergency. I need to clean this up ASAP. So I went and found a box of tissues and started taking tissues out and putting them on the glue. And eventually there was like this mountain of tissues because I couldn't judge how many I needed. And she came over again and she was like, "Who's wasting all of my tissues?" And everyone in my group pointed at me. And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it was me." And she was like, "Stop using them, put them back." So I picked up the pile of tissues, which was covered in glue at this point, and put them back into the tissue box. And she wasn't happy about that either.
I can imagine that, yeah.
Yeah. Memorable experiences.
The only thing I remember from those bridges, well, I remember we watched like a bunch of videos on like Roman architecture, but which really weren't related to our
definitely
bridges.
Pertinent.
But but basically, bridges. All I knew, I was like, triangles are kind of strong, so I do like all these triangles, and then I just like layered like toothpick upon toothpick. Like we probably used thousands of toothpicks on our bridge just because.
Yeah. Good times.
And then, but I guess looking back, like some of my interests, I think came from there. Like we did that stock. We did that stock portfolio. The portfolio project. I thought that was fun.
You were in more math, weren't you?
I was in all of it.
Okay, I was not in math, but I was in English and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I hate to say it, but my interest in writing and reading definitely was increased through the More program, and all of the work we did.
Now, I can't remember. Did you take Spanish?
Yes, I took 5 years in Spanish. We were in Spanish 4 and 5 concurrently. That was a joy.
We can talk about that later. But did you do Latin and more?
No. Well,
see, we had to do like these Latin root books, and we would just go through it, and I think that actually helped me a lot with Spanish.
We did have workbooks with Latin roots and stuff. It was part of like the spelling and everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Really any language other than English, language acquisition, I think just helps immensely with English. I know more about the structure and like the names of parts of speech and how sentences are set up because of my time in Spanish than I do from English classes.
Yeah, that would make sense because in English we never really broke it down, but in Spanish, like every little bit of grammar we broke down.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Miss Hogue. Was that her first year when you were? It was
her first year, except during my first year of Spanish in 8th grade, she was a long-term sub for Spiegel. So I had her for about 3 months during that time and got to know her, and that was a lot of fun too. So.
Can't tell that. Her. Yeah, I was gonna say I couldn't tell if that was sarcasm.
I liked her. I know too. A lot of people didn't.
I never really understood where that came from.
I think
she was maybe difficult, but then when we got to like 5, all we did was just like read and write, and then like do like projects that were, they were just enjoyable.
Did you have Murray for 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Because some people didn't have Murray for 3. And because 3 was the most work, I think, and everything else after that was smooth sailing. Um,
I enjoyed how much culture was in that class too. Like we did a whole segment on art and
Velasquez
and El Greco, and
mhm.
we did a little bit of Picasso, but not much. That was enjoyable. And then
C.
yeah, see. Another thing I just remembered was we were in that More Play Together.
The Nightingale.
The Nightingale, yeah.
I was one of 4 narrators. What were you?
You're a narrator. I was the Emperor.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
talkt about you a lot. The
Yeah,
Emperor,
probably.
like most emperors.
Yeah, of course.
That was the beginning to all of my lines. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And then you continued on with,
Yeah,
I don't know if I say theater or musicals or whatever, but you were in, I remember the Addams Family.
Yes.
Mr. Cody was in as well.
Cody and I had a great time doing the Addams Family together.
That still is my favorite production that I've ever seen LB put on.
That musical is just so well written, hysterical, yet it manages to be really poignant in many parts. So yeah, that was a great experience. That was my debut in musical theater. Yeah.
Have you debuted? So have there been some since?
No.
Oh no, that was like
it was my
first
debut
and final
and finale.
Okay.
Unless I pursue that further in college or locally.
In English, do you go through much? Like, do you do plays and?
Yeah, since plays are written, I've read a lot, not like standard stuff. A lot of the course material we go through, we've looked at Afro-Caribbean playwrights, which has been interesting.
Like from what time period? Like a more
So,
modern time period?
I don't remember his name, but it was the 1900s.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've also read Egyptian playwrights from the 1900s.
Interesting.
So just a really wide variety. We look at everything from really typical canonized literature, like Shakespeare and stuff, to more marginalized literature.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I think almost all of my experience with that has been like very just Western, like your Shakespeare, and even just like new. I think we did a lot of Arthur Miller stuff. And,
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's been my exposure. I have no Afro-Caribbean
Yeah.
playwright influence. But that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was definitely different, which is good.
Okay, and I think we have to go to break right now. Andy's motioning at me. Okay, we're back. We're gonna jump to a different segment. You just mentioned plants and coffee, so you can take it away with either plants or are those related or?
Coffee is a plant.
Coffee is a plant.
But let's separate the two for the moment.
That works with me.
Are you into plants, gardening, house plants, any?
Yeah, a little bit. I have some succulents and I have basil that I kept in my room. Kept them alive for this whole last year.
Good work. Did you eat your basil?
I do eat, yeah.
Okay.
I love basil.
Basil's great.
I just eat it plain. We have at my house. I've got mint, like all kinds of different mint.
Mm-hmm.
Some like lemon verbena or something like that.
Yeah.
Some lavender.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like to garden. Love plants. Had 7 plants in my dorm this semester.
Really? What kind of plants?
So I have a bonsai tree, which is a ficus, um, which is part of the fig family. Um, and I had a pothos, a peperomia, an oxalis, and three philodendrons. Um,
Interesting. I really don't know. Could you
yeah.
like give us a description of some of
So
those? Because I think I probably have seen them. I just never hear them called that.
so philodendrons are some of the most popular houseplants. They're these viney things with sort of just average looking green leaves. They can come variegated as well. Variegated means like stripy, almost
Okay.
white and green. Um, and then oxalis is also known as shamrock. Um, they come in purple or green. The green kind have purple under their leaves, and they're cool because at night they close their leaves and they
Okay.
open them in the daytime. Um, and then the other plants, yeah, they were just there.
How do you get light for all those plants? And are you living in a dorm or?
I live in a dorm room. We had four windows in the dorm room. I was really fortunate, and they were all south facing, which is the direction where you get the most sun.
Mhm.
So I was really lucky this semester in terms of sunlight and
Yeah.
stuff.
Same here. I had south facing, but I only had one window, so I had to like kind of set them all by
Yeah.
each other in a row.
Um, yeah. So plants are cool.
Plants are cool. Do you have do you have like do you ever garden like for food, like to eat?
Yes, I have a vegetable garden, a fairly extensive vegetable garden. Um, we grow all of our vegetables and stuff for the summer. Right now, we have asparagus coming up.
We have some at home too. That's really good.
Yeah, homegrown asparagus is much better than store bought.
It doesn't get as like stringy or like
Woody.
rough as yeah.
Yeah. And usually it's sweeter when it's from home. Not all of it is, but good asparagus can be sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, the rest of the gardens are not food, but they're extensive, and I help out with those too.
You guys compost?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We have 3 compost bins.
So is that like one year out there? Do you spin it or is it
No,
just
they're just they're wooden boxes, and we put our kitchen scraps and our yard scraps in them and mix them about once every 3 days. And
get? How intense do you get? Are you like buying the bacteria to dump in there? Or,
no,
you know?
we are not. We're not putting active live cultures and stuff
Gotcha.
in, but a couple of times we've gotten them really cooking to the point where they'll have steam coming off of
Yeah,
them.
some of
And
them
they're
will
hot
like
and-
spontaneously combust or like
Yeah.
catch fire.
Mhm.
It's pretty wild. Ours is just a pile and it's open, so like it never really gets
Yeah.
quite that hot. But
Mhm. Composting's cool. Just watching nature in action.
yeah, we had a load of horse manure,
Oh, that's exciting.
but it was like mostly wood chips because they cleaned it all the
Okay.
time. So it's sat back there for like 5 or 6 years, and it's just now like getting nice.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a long time for that stuff to like break down.
It's developed.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. I yeah. We don't do animal feces at my house.
Well, we had 2 piles. We had like a load of horse manure, then all of our scraps. And...
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I gotcha. I don't think my neighbors would be very happy if I got
Probably
a
not. But you
truckload
know,
of-
it didn't smell. It never smelled.
That's
It was like already. I think it had sat there for a while, and it's mostly just wood chips, and everything else was. It was just so.
Yeah.
Like aged that it had no
Mhm.
smell to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unlike, have you seen some of these? What really smells? Some of the farmers recently have started. They plant like what is it? Like a root vegetable, like I want to say like beets or radishes or something like that, but then they just let them like rot in the field.
Yeah, most farmers, at least around here, will use radishes as cover crops. They plant them in the fall, and then they'll grow, and then they just leave them in because they break up the soil.
Do they bring nitrogen in as well?
Radishes do a little bit. They aren't the best nitrogen fixers. Legumes, beans,
clover is really good.
Clover, yeah. That's also used as a cover crop, but things like radishes that you leave in and they have large roots and then they let them rot, they'll smell when they till.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I like to see that. I mean, it stinks, but I like to see them actually kind of putting an effort into, instead of just like knifing in nitrogen. And
absolutely. I was in an ecology course this semester, and nitrogen is probably the most important fertilizer that farmers use, but it's water soluble. Okay. So when you put it into the field, it doesn't stay around very long.
So I have so many problems with runoff.
Yeah. And plants they need it, but they aren't the best at taking it up. Mm-hmm. So you just dump more and more on until they get the amount they need, and then you lose a ton in runoff. And then we see the algae blooms in Erie and other places.
Right. I think the best way to do that still is crop rotation, and I mean, probably just letting a field sit for a year. Like that would never happen now, but
yeah, it would be nice if we were at a point where it was economically feasible to let fields lie fallow for a year.
You know, none of that stuff even picked up until World War II. Like
Victory Gardens.
You know the not Victory Gardens. I'm talking about nitrogen. Like, have you heard of the Haber process?
The Haber-Bosch nitrogen synthesis process. Yeah. It revolutionized agriculture.
It really did. It really did.
There is a direct correlation.
And it was used for making bombs, right?
Artificial synthesis of nitrogen and population growth. That's true. It changed food output just incredibly. Yes. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. No, you guys are laughing, but it really is. It's pretty awesome. Like, it's kind of what has led us like down this path of increased population and like greater civilization, I'd say.
Yeah. And yeah.
But wasn't that used in, maybe I'm just mixing things up, but wasn't that used in bomb production or in ammunition? Or maybe they just took the factories and converted those to fertilizer factories. That's what I heard. They had an excess of nitrogen.
In certain commercial explosives,
like ammonia.
They use large amounts of nitrogen. So I'm not sure, but I would buy that. Absolutely. But yeah, fertilizer changed the world as soon as we moved past using as much poop.
Fertilizer has its pros and cons, but I think the biggest thing is the pesticides, though.
Yeah.
They really hurt the ecology, I guess is how we can maybe broadly say that.
And be correct.
Yeah.
Pesticides. You seem to be into microbiology and cultures and stuff like that. So I've been looking into little tiny organisms like nematodes and other like productive funguses that can curb bad things. Like nematodes eat other insects and improve soil health. Instead of using as many pesticides.
Well, that's pesticides. I mean, to draw an analogy, it'd be kind of like antibiotics to the human body, whereas you're going to kill the bad, but you're going to kill the good along with it, and then you just leave like a wide open area for whatever to come and take shape.
Yeah.
So from even what I've heard too, like as you were saying, I've heard if you can actually get your soil to good health, that it will take care of any bad fungal or
Yes.
bacterial problems.
Fun fact, it takes approximately 100 years to create 1 inch of good soil. Um, so naturally, and we haven't really figured out a great way to create good soil artificially, because soil is mostly made up of living organisms. In ideal situations, it's supposed to be 50% air. Um, that interstitial space in between the soil um, allows for water matriculation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, soil, if it's healthy, it'll do its thing and make sure it stays healthy.
Right. It's like at this point we've compromised it so much, and it's hard to like to step back. It would be such like a detriment. Like it's almost to a point where you have to keep pushing yields higher, higher, higher. Like how do you step back and like let the ground get back to where it's good?
Yeah, balancing economics and really human life, because food food necessity is projected to increase. We're going to have approximately 10 billion humans on the planet by 2050, and everyone needs to be fed. So, like you said, we've passed the point where um, where we can think about sort of natural soil regeneration, and we need to be thinking about how to provide enough food for the population.
Mm-hmm. And then now, I mean, now you're starting to see a push towards urban agriculture, or even others, like not like greenhouse systems or
Mm-hmm.
um, just other systems of growing. But I don't know that those are necessarily the best either.
I think diversifying where we. I don't think there is one solution. It would be great if there was one solution. But I think diversifying how we get our food. And one major positive with urban farming and things like greenhouses that are closer to larger populations is it greatly reduces transport of food, which is also problematic. Transporting um, like fruit and vegetables, most of them in the United States are grown in California, and they get shipped all over.
Right.
So,
That's interesting. That's actually I'm doing research with our civil and environmental engineering. And what I'm looking at is virtual water flow, which is they call it also embedded water. Basically, it's just how much water it takes to produce specific crop and specific area, and then they just multiply that by how much gets exported from a state. So what I looked at was the virtual water flow for all 50 states, which is a pain in the butt to try to understand all that data.
mm-hmm.
But it's really neat to look at.
I'm sure I
And as you were saying, there's so many papers. Like a lot of people suggest, this state is water scarce, this state is water abundant. So the water abundant state should be a net exporter. It's not the case at all. In fact, it's oftentimes the opposite. Usually because those states, like the states that have water, like even like nations, countries, a lot of times they're wealthier or have a greater population, or they've already passed the agricultural goods state, and then they are importing a lot of things in.
Yeah, if you're already water negative, or have a deficit like California, and you're an agricultural hub, you can't really rectify that immediately. So, yeah.
No, and I don't know what way you would go about that. I mean, it seems like a lot of like it's just a place where things grow well, but you need the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this year, though, they had a lot of rain and a lot of snow cover, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. After 3 years of drought.
I think so.
So, which poses another problem with increased brush. You have
more fires,
more wildfires in the summer. So
I think that's a case of we kind of moved into places where we should have been living, and we quit controlled burning.
Yes. Speaking of places, maybe that we shouldn't be living, it's like our flooding problem here in Finley.
Yeah, I mean, when you take a swamp and drain it, you probably could expect it to fill with water at some point.
And when the topography of Finley is a bowl with downtown in the very bottom of the bowl, maybe problems are to be expected. Who knows? Right.
Yeah, it seems like I think we just kind of forget that we are still living in nature, maybe. Yeah. We think that we might know better, but you can't really combat some of those forces, at least not all the time.
Mm-hmm. Nature usually wins in the long run. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, or we just figure out ways to live with her, but it's interesting. Now you got people talking about heading out, colonizing space.
Good for them.
Do you follow Elon at all, or
no,
Jeff Bezos' space company?
I do not stay on top of that stuff like I probably should.
Yeah. I think what SpaceX has done is interesting. I mean, they've kind of taken. I mean, at this point, NASA is paying them to put most of their stuff in orbit, and they put a lot of private satellites in orbit.
Yeah, it's really their success and innovation. It's incredible to think about.
Now, I don't think the cars are a different thing. I think Tesla might be in some trouble.
Potentially, yeah. I think Elon might have had some of his power go to his head.
Yeah, he might have bit off a little more than he could chew.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind having a flamethrower from Tesla.
Oh, the flame! Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, like those products are really cool. I like the guy. I think he's really, really. I wouldn't say really intelligent, but he's very intelligent. He commands like. A lot of people just like him. Like, that's why Tesla is a thing, is because it's just a brand. And people like the brand, they like him. Yeah. And he's kind of kept the ball rolling that way. So maybe in that way they'll succeed, but I don't know. I see other major car companies kind of coming right up on him with the electric stuff. Yeah. All right. We got to wrap this segment up. All right. We'll do this. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. See you later.